Chapter 31. The King's Dilemma. Marcus had spent the entire night poring over military forums and tactical manuals. His apartment floor was covered with printed pages about asymmetric warfare supply line disruption and coordinated resistance tactics. Every piece of information could save lives when Malachar's army reached Drakmor. When he returned to Valdris that morning, Marcus felt the weight of impending doom pressing down on the city. The royal audience was scheduled for midday, and this might be his only chance to convince the kingdom's leadership to prepare adequately for what was coming. He arrived at the palace early and met with Lord Hammond, Sister Cora, and Commander Kane to review their presentation strategy. The throne room buzzed with nervous energy as various nobles and advisors gathered for what everyone sensed would be a crucial meeting.
Remember, present the intelligence first, then the tactical proposals. Let them absorb the threat before we discuss solutions,
Lord Hammond said quietly. Marcus nodded, organizing his notes one final time. The maps and tactical sketches represented hours of careful planning, but he knew the political obstacles might prove more challenging than the military ones. King Aldwin entered the throne room with his characteristic measured dignity, followed by his advisors and the royal guard. Marcus noticed Commander Brightmore, leader of the royal guards, among the crowd. Marcus remembered how the man had provided his cell key during his imprisonment. That small act of greed gave Marcus hope that reasonable people existed throughout the power structure but cost Aldrich his shop.
Welcome back, Lord Hammond. I hope everything is progressing well with building your district. When I look out from the palace, I can see small settlements beyond the city walls.
It is going well, my king,
Lord Hammond replied formally.
If you've come back again for your food-growing campaign, I'm afraid there's no news yet from the mushroom farms.
The king continued with obvious weariness. One of the advisors, a thin man with calculating eyes, leaned forward.
Also, there's no need for this much excess food creation. The city is fine.
The other advisor, equally dismissive, added with obvious provocation.
You just want to place your men in Lord Sator's province.
Lord Hammond waited patiently for their accusations to end. Without showing anger, he raised his hand for attention.
I'm afraid I requested this meeting for another reason, and this time it's more imminent and visible.
And what is it, Lord Hammond?
King Aldwin cracked a half-laugh.
We received messages that Malachar's army of nearly 90,000 is marching toward the city. Since we lost all settlements to the east, the news arrived late.
The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus watched as the reality sank in among the court officials.
We got no such intelligence,
the king said, looking around at his advisors. He turned to his royal guard commander.
Commander Brightmore, look into this. If this is true, I will hang every scout in the east.
Marcus saw Commander Brightmore's grim nod.
And if your claims are false, Lord Hammond...
The king's voice carried an unspoken threat. Sister Cora stepped forward with quiet authority.
I'm afraid they are true, my king. I trust Lord Hammond and his men on this matter.
My king, we have to act quickly. I already ordered my men to dig trenches, but our district still lies outside the walls.
King Aldwin leaned back in his throne, processing the implications.
90,000 is not that much. We can hold. How much time do we have?
2 weeks at my men's estimate.
Lord Sator and Lord Carmond can't send backup in time. But 90,000 can't siege the city.
Lord Hammond's expression grew even more serious.
We received news of Malachar commanding the army.
The room erupted in worried murmurs. Everyone knew Malachar's reputation for invincibility in battle. Commander Kane stepped forward.
If I may, my king, Malachar never lost a battle he commanded. His magical powers affect weak minds and can open city gates with ease. We need to set up traps along the way.
The first advisor straightened in his chair.
I will immediately send messages to my lord.
Me too.
The second advisor chimed in. King Aldwin focused on Commander Kane with intense interest.
You, Commander Kane, right? You have a plan, then?
My king, we need to weaken them. I volunteer with my men to set up traps near the Sorga Valley. When they reach near the city without letting them surround us, and before Malachar's influence takes place, the royal army should attack.
Sister Cora shook her head gravely.
Attacking directly against Malachar, even if we weaken them, would be suicide.
Kane's voice carried desperate conviction.
It's much better than waiting in the city where he'll definitely control the gates and bring 200,000 more in the meantime.
The king turned to his military commander.
General, what do you think?
General Garup, a weathered veteran with calculating eyes, spoke carefully.
Malachar's influence on battles and sieges is well known. I need time to create strategy, but in the meantime, it seems like Commander Kane's plan is our only way.
King Aldwin stood and began pacing, his agitation visible.
If we don't stop them in that one attack, it's over for us. I thought our defenses were legendary, with the mountains and tall walls.
Against normal armies, my king.
Lord Hammond replied grimly. The king stopped pacing and faced the assembled court.
Does no one have other ideas?
The room went into murmurs, but every advisor seemed to shrink back, hoping not to be called upon for solutions they didn't possess. Marcus raised his hand. The room went silent. Everyone turned to stare at the young refugee who dared to speak in the royal presence. The king's expression showed obvious irritation.
The kid, without manners and crazy ideas. Really, no one else.
King Aldwin sat back down on his throne and stared at Marcus for a long moment.
Talk.
Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every gaze in the throne room.
My lords and ladies, my king, I have a slightly better idea rather than rushing ourselves to death.
Every eye in the room focused on him with intense scrutiny.
I have a small army.
One advisor chuckled dismissively.
You have an army? You are a lord now, peasant?
He turned to his colleague.
I heard he's becoming rich now.
The other advisor joined in mockingly. Marcus maintained his composure despite the derision.
I'm honored you are watching me, but it's not my army. There are magical graduates from the academy. They've honed their powers to fight, defend, and spy. Not only enhancers have to fight.
Commander Brightmore whispered something in the king's ear. King Aldwin nodded with recognition.
Fimon's Irregulars, the failed organization to take down Malachar. What is your actual proposition?
Marcus felt the room's skepticism, but pressed forward.
According to my research, Commander Kane's plan to trap them at the valley is excellent, but I thought 2 different additions to that will trap Malachar's army more effectively.
Go on.
My friends will position themselves behind Malachar's army, and when Commander Kane's trap happens, Commander and his men will intentionally show themselves running toward the city.
Kane frowned with concern.
But Marcus,
Marcus nodded acknowledgement.
I know it exposes you to attack, but we want them to chase you. My friends will fall behind them and cut their supply lines, sabotage their food and weapons all through their journey from the valley to the city.
He paused to let that sink in before continuing.
At the city, rather than an open attack on them, my suggestion is waiting behind walls and removing everyone near the city wall so Malachar can't take over their minds.
And waiting for Lord Sater and Carmen's reinforcements?
King Aldwin leaned forward with interest. General Garup stepped forward with obvious concern.
I must protest the second part, my king. If we're not actively defending the walls, they can infiltrate much more easily.
Marcus felt his heart sink. All those hours of planning, and he couldn't think of that simple defensive flaw.
I'm just a kid I shouldn't even be here offering military advice.
Marcus caught himself before revealing too much.
General talk with Marcus and Commander Kane. Combine the plans.
King Aldwin waved dismissively. Murmurs erupted throughout the palace as nobles discussed this unprecedented collaboration.
My king, will you trust this kid?
The first advisor spoke up indignantly.
Let's wait for Lord Sater's army.
The second advisor joined in. King Aldwin's voice carried sharp authority.
I didn't see any of you contribute to planning. If you have valuable ideas, you can join them.
Marcus felt emboldened by the king's support.
My king, I have another concern.
Go on.
The city is becoming unrestful with lack of food and increased prices because of few resources. As a result, people are fighting with one another. If we don't mobilize crop growing and send many refugees and villagers to Lord Carmond and Lord Sater's provinces to work every available land in 6 months, even if we defeat Malachar here, there will be civil war.
The room erupted in murmurs again. The advisors looked scandalized.
Preposterous.
The first advisor exclaimed.
Lies.
The second added. King Aldwin raised his hand for silence.
I'm not aware of civil unrest. Of course, we must have problems. I will look into that.
Even though Marcus had failed to deliver perfect tactics, the king didn't seem to mind his slip-up. Instead, he was sending Marcus to talk with General Garup and Commander Kane about combining their strategies. As the formal audience concluded, Marcus felt both hopeful and anxious. He'd managed to present the intelligence and propose tactical alternatives, but the magnitude of the approaching threat still seemed to overwhelm their current capabilities. General Garup approached Marcus with professional respect.
Young man, your guerrilla warfare concepts have merit. Let's discuss how to integrate them with our defensive strategies.
Commander Kane nodded approvingly.
The supply line disruption could significantly weaken their force before they reach our walls.
Sister Cora joined their planning group.
Marcus, your warning about civil unrest is also important. We need to address internal stability while preparing for external threats.
As they moved to a smaller chamber for detailed tactical planning, Marcus realized this was just the beginning. Convincing the king to take action was one step, but actually organizing effective resistance against Malachar's overwhelming force would require everything he'd learned in both worlds. The next few hours would determine whether Drakmor had any chance of survival when the Dark Wizard's army arrived at their gates. Marcus spread his detailed maps across the planning table, feeling the weight of responsibility for thousands of lives resting on decisions made in this room. The real work was just beginning.